Welcome to Flow with the Grow. I'm your host, Sophia, a health and fitness professional, positivity distributor, and a real-life human being with real-life challenges. Every Tuesday, you'll hear my honest conversations on the day-to-day highs and lows that life teaches us, as well as bring you actionable tips that you can implement to improve your health and wellness journey. This podcast will empower you to flow with the inevitable setbacks of life. You will learn what it means to flow with the grow, see through a lens of optimism, and navigate your way to living your best life. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Now let's jump into your daily dose of positivity and growth. Hey there, welcome. I hope this finds you well. I'm super stoked for you to listen to this episode today, where I talk with David Rahman, and he's a mindset coach. And you can also find this on YouTube. We recorded on Zoom, so that will be on there on the Flow with the Grow YouTube channel. And actually, this episode almost never happened. So he found me on Instagram, reached out to me asking about coming on my show and speaking more about, he just saw we had similar interests with mindset and the perspectives we shared, the things that we shared. And I guess he just really kind of liked what I put out there and thought I would be a good fit for him. And he was definitely right. He is brilliant. He messaged me asking to be on my show. And initially I said, yes, oh my gosh, I would love that. And then he messaged me back to set up a time. And I think I looked at it or maybe overlooked it and didn't open the message and completely just kind of put it to the side and forgot. And I was going through Instagram, my messages, and I realized I never replied. So I reached out to him and I, of course, apologized and said I would love to set something up for us to meet and then record. And that's exactly what we did. But my forgetfulness of looking back at messages almost just didn't happen. But I'm really, really glad that it did. I hope that you take away a few things. I learned a lot. It was such a joy talking to him and listening to him speak. We go more into what he does, and I will let him speak on that. And we go more into his book and the mind and specific things that you can do to help you in navigating your journey mentally. And if at any moment in time you resonate with this, you find value in this, I would love for you to take a screenshot, put it up on your stories, and tag me as well as David. You can find him at DAVID_RAHMAN. And I will also link that in the show notes, but put it up on your stories, tag us so we can see who this has helped, and thank you. And definitely reach out to him, message him saying that you found him on, or you heard about him on this podcast, and let him know how it helped you. If there was anything specific that he shared that was kind of an aha moment for you. I know there was a couple moments for me. And I will also link in the show notes where you can pre-order his book called Let It Go. And I am so excited. Let's get into it. And I'll see you on the other side. I'm so excited because I was writing down so many things, questions, and I read the 3 chapters that you gave me, and I just want to know more. I looked at the table of contents and the other chapters you have, and I'm just oh my gosh, I really want to know what this one is about, and I want to know what this one is about. Finally came. So exciting. The first copy came to me just after Christmas. It's exciting actually. I'm pleased at the way it looks, and the way that it's been designed, because I obviously did all the words, but we had to put all the tables or illustrations and tips and so it was exciting. It looks really good. How long did it take you to write the book? Or how long has the process been, I guess? Well, started, it's actually based on my courses. So I took the information from the courses and then put it together and then wrote it. So 2015, 5 years. Wow. Nice. Yeah, it's sort of, I didn't do anything on the book for about 2 3 years actually, because it's just one of those things where only do something when your heart is ready to do it,
because I had so much going on. I thought, right, just put that on the back burner for now and then do it when you're ready. So started looking at it again in 2018 and then found a publisher and all that. So I was just very lucky.
That's awesome. Did you ever get any like pushback on the title or anything? Because I've always heard of people like saying, not people, but
No.
Yeah, I guess people saying that like they should change the title or like it's.
Yeah. No, they like the title straight away. Pretty much everybody who's heard the title loved the titles. So I thought, right, okay. But my program is called Let It Go. So I wanted to call it Let It Go. The subtitle, How to Stop Your Past Ruining Your Future, was something that the editor thought of. She thought, that's a good strap line. I thought, okay. So I put it before a few of my friends and people I know on social media, and they said, oh, I like that.
I love the chain, like the chain breaking.
Yeah, that's my editor. She said, what do you think of this? I thought, yeah, looks good. Let me put it again to my audience or people I know, because I don't know what's best. And then they said, oh, like that. So, and the color of the book, yellow, we sort of all thought, yeah, something bright so it stands out.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, it's just, I wanted to help people, Sophia, at the end of the day. That's all. I want people to read the darn book. So that's why it's been carefully put together. So it's not just text. There's lots of things to do in there. And also, people can read it as buddies. So you can have, you could have a friend of yours who's like an accountability buddy, and you both go through the chapters and you both go through the exercises, and you'll just get it done far more quicker.
Yeah, I love that you have exercises in there too, because like a lot of books, well, I've read both where there's books and there's not any like exercises to do. And then I've had books where there are things to do like at the end of the chapter or throughout the chapters, because then it gives someone, things to work through, like actually physically doing something about whatever it is that the book is trying to talk about.
Yes.
So, and I actually did I did the first exercise that you gave me. So I was going to talk to you more about that. But I also had a friend ask me the other day, because I told him that I was going to have a mindset coach on my podcast. And he's like, what's a mindset coach? Because I've heard of different types of coaches out there. There's so many. But then I realized that there's a lot of people who they have no idea. And I was trying to explain it, but I was like, I don't really know how to explain it. So what is a mindset coach?
Yeah, sure. There's so many different coaches around. And my first training was as a life coach years and years ago. But life coach is very sort of global in terms of it covers everything. And ever since I was a child, I was always interested in how people think and why do they do the things they do. But I never knew that. I was just inquisitive because I didn't have any sort of self-confidence or any sort of I think self-worth. So I used to look at other people to wonder why they're so confident. And you just get interested in mindset, as it's commonly known now. So what I do is when I coach people, I coach them on their mind to help them optimize the way they think. So that instead of waking up in the morning, stubbing their toe and then tripping up and then cursing the world, they actually have a specific way of thinking so that they can not just see the positive in everything, but actually deal with the shit as it happens. So they have a nice mindset muscle. So it deals with adversity and it can embrace happiness and you can take compliments. But on the other hand, if you experience failure, you can deal with the failure. So like a mind coach or a mindset coach helps you, just to repeat myself, just optimize the way you think, really. Mm-hmm. And then if you can do that, you can feel better more often. And then you are acting from a point of authenticity and being your true self rather than being looking for validation or looking for someone to praise you all the time. You feel good already.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything like a specific event or like maybe multiple events or like a catalyst that was like kind of made you want to do more of the mindset thing, or were you just kind of always interested in mind, like the whole mind?
Yeah, good question. I grew up with a science education because my mum and dad were doctors, and my father was a practicing doctor, and I ended up as an optometrist, which is like what they call an eye doctor in the States. That helped me become more confident, but I didn't have any confidence growing up. So dealing with the public helped me to become more confident. And then I started to think about, it was around 2000, I started to think about, well, I'd love to work as a psychologist or something to do with psychology. And I remember Googling, Google wasn't around at that time, looking up on a search engine at that time. And I came up with psychiatry, psychotherapy, counseling, but none of those just appealed to me. You just know when it appeals to you or not. And then I come across life coaching. So I thought, what the hell is this? And it turns out it was what I was supposed to do. It just real people. You can help real people with tools to help them think and feel differently about issues, without having to prescribe any drugs or medication, things like that. So I knew that was what I wanted to do, but I didn't know. You've discovered something, but you don't know what to do because you've got I had a very safe job, lots of money coming in, and then I was going to this new career where I don't know what the prospects are, So people were saying to me, what's a life coach and why do you want to leave being an optometrist? Are you crazy? So I put it on the back burner. And then my father passed on in 2002 in October. And then my son was born 2003 January, so 3 months apart. And then I knew I wanted to change. I wanted to change myself. I wanted to change my life because I knew I had to change. I wasn't confident, and I thought, well, I'm going to be a father now. I need to, become stronger mentally, emotionally, and I just wasn't that. So I started training. That was the catalyst. I started training, and it was hard. It was very bloody hard when you're not confident. It was hard going to programs and courses to get out of my comfort zone. That was hard in itself. Going to learn something which everyone was telling you, what the F are you doing? So I had to get up. I had to really battle my own demons to get myself re-educated to do something no one actually believed in. So yeah, I had to jump through a lot of personal hoops to get there. Yeah.
And I love how you just did it anyways, even though people were kind of telling you otherwise. How did you just say, well, did you just think to yourself, this is what I need to do? Like, I don't care what other people think? Or what was your thought process with that?
It was a mixture of things, really. It was fighting myself, my demons and my doubts. People saying, I remember one of my best friends, he said, well, where are you going to get your first client from? Are you sure? And then his wife was sort of dismissing it. I remember her dismissing it, but you just have to go with your gut feeling. I guess I was going with my gut feeling. And then when I did get trained up and I learned different disciplines then, so I learned the life coaching, then I learned NLP, executive coaching, timeline therapy. And I did a lot of different trainings over the years. But it all came down to, mindset training. I could see that something else was needed in society. Even at that time, I could see people were looking for answers. But this is long time ago, in 2004, as I said. And mental health has been a swear word for a long time until now. Until the last few years, it's suddenly become not fashionable, but it's become more accepted. That it's invisible. We can't see it, but it's there, and it's unless you have control of your mind or you're more in charge of it, it can really throw you off. So it was a long time ago. It helped me deal with my issues, and that's why I wanted to help people with their mindset, because I believe our mind is the one thing. Once we get in charge of, we could go to the gym and we can work out. We can be more consistent.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. I think the mind,
throughout my years of doing fitness, health and fitness, I always put physical health, like fitness and nutrition, workouts first. And it wasn't until maybe the past couple of years, and especially this year, where it's like I now see more of the importance of mental health, and maybe even more important than physical health, because the mental aspect has to come first before we can implement and change anything else in our life.
Yes.
So I'm really glad that it's become more of a I guess, of an accepted thing to like advocate for, and that more people are starting to advocate for it and talk about it, because we're not taught this growing up. Like we're not taught about mindset or how it can affect us. And so why do you think that is? Like, why do you think we're not ever taught this aspect of life growing up?
Yeah. It's looked upon as, well, it was looked upon that if you show your emotions and you're vulnerable, it's a sign of weakness. And with many guys I've spoken to over the years, they've said, well, they felt emasculated, or they felt ashamed that they would say they've got feelings, because we guys, we don't talk about feelings ever. We talk about sports and other things, and whereas, it's natural for females to talk to each other and discuss their feelings. And we guys have just never, ever, until now, have only started. It's almost like we're perhaps emotionally incapable of doing it, or we thought we were emotionally incapable of doing it, but we are capable of doing it. It's just that, I was brought up by very austere parents, very strict. And if I were to say something, you might get the equivalent of man up, be a man, grow a pair, and I'm sure lots of guys have had that. And, similarly with females and ladies, I'm sure there's plenty of men and women out there who have been dismissed the minute they talked about their feelings. And I think people are afraid. So it's just something that up till now hasn't really appeared on the curriculum, which I think it should. Personally, I think it should. Because I think the physical aspect, you can see it. Well, somebody needs to lose weight, or somebody needs to do something to help with their health because they develop diabetes because they're overweight. Whereas the mental side is invisible. You can't see it. And so many people are hiding behind a mask. So I just think it's part of culture, human nature, not to be discussed,
Yeah. Do you work with more females or males, or about even?
Over the years, it's been 80% females and 20% males. Not because of choice. I want to work with them both. I get on with both. But the 20% of males, most of them came in because their girlfriends or their wives brought them in, and they would come in and they would be like this, what the F are you going to do for me? And most of the time it was great. More often than that, 99% of the time, we'd gone really well, and they'd understand that I was a guy who, just a regular guy who's looking to help them. I wasn't going to sit there with a notebook and go, I wanted to give them actionable tools that they could use straight away. They love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What has been the biggest, I don't know if there is like one or two, but like the biggest challenge that you've helped someone work through, like mentally?
I'm going to tell you a story, and it's true.
Okay.
And you may or may not believe it, but it is true. I had a client. Her testimonials in the book. When you open the book, it's got about 6 pages of testimonials from professionals to ex-clients and all that. And she it was 2013. She has something called ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome. Chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, are where somebody has had and it's almost like the energy has been taken away from them. It's like a flu that doesn't go away. And I'd been trained in dealing with that. That was one of my trainings. So anyway, she came to me, and what happened was, it was around 10, 15 years before, she'd had IVF I don't know, twice or three times. I don't know how many times you have it. And it hadn't worked. And then suddenly she got pregnant when they sort of relaxed, because they really, really wanted a child. And then 6 months after her son was born, she developed something called ME, chronic fatigue syndrome. Just couldn't get out of bed, tired, mentally shot. It was just like having flu, but all the time. So then she saw the GP, her general practitioner, doctor, had loads of help over the years, but nothing had helped her. And subsequently, by the time I met her, she could walk in a local sort of town center shopping if she was going to the different stores. But after about 15, 20 minutes, she'd end up in a wheelchair. She was just tired. She was just physically tired. So her husband would push her in a wheelchair. I didn't know this, because when she came into her consultation, she walked in because her car was parked outside the practice. So she came in, and then I started working with her, and her husband, after a couple of sessions, her husband said, "Oh, maybe she can throw away a wheelchair." And I laughed. And I thought, what are you talking about? And they explained to me that after about 15 to 20 minutes walking, she would actually have to sit, no energy. Her energy systems were gone. Whether that was the adrenal glands, they also call it adrenal gland fatigue. So anyway, we worked on just this bit. Nothing to do with the body, no nutrition. I didn't work with anything else. I just said, listen, let me just help you with this bit. Let's see what we can do. So I helped her with visualization techniques. I helped her with letting go of things that she was constantly worrying about and fretting about. I helped her change her mindset. That's all I did, without any sort of any sort of idea of what was going to happen. Then I said to her, "What would you like to do in 2014? What's your big goal for the next year?" And she said, "I'd like to run a 5K for women's breast cancer." This is a woman who couldn't walk for 20 minutes. So I said, "Okay, let's do this. Let's just work on your mind. Let's see what happens. I'm not promising anything. Let's see what happens." So she worked her arse off. She worked so hard. She would actually text me like a couple of hours after a session for the homework. I was going to send her homework to her, because these are the tools. Some of them are in the book. So she would nag me for the homework. She was so eager. And then as the months went on, well, put it this way, she got rid of the wheelchair. It's gone. She could walk a mile, and then 2 miles, and 3 miles. This is after years of really finding incapable of doing it. And she felt good about herself. Something triggered a response in her body. I don't know what it was, but she started to feel more energized. And then suddenly she could walk, and then she couldn't really run, but she could walk far and then jog. And then her life changed. She could travel again because it stopped her from traveling. And then a year later, she actually ran and walked the 5Ks for women's breast cancer, that's just, for me, that's like, that story always that always plays in my mind. What happened, But it happened. It's there. That was one incident. Another incident was a lady, she'd come on one of my courses. So the first lady I just talked about was a private client. The second one, she came on one of my courses. Program I was running was 8 weeks long. And she had big issues with men, big problems with men. And she had a big problem with a man delivering the program. That was me. I didn't know that, but I just knew that she just had some anger in there. I don't know what was wrong. And about 3 or 4 weeks into the program, she said to me she wanted to speak to me outside in the corridor. And I thought, oh, shit, what's going to happen here? And we went outside in the corridor, and she just burst out crying. And she said, for the first time in almost 20 years, I'm feeling happy. And I said, why? and she said, and she told me something, and I didn't know what to say. She said, I was raped by two guys. One was in 1 year, and the very next year I was raped by another guy. I didn't know what to say, and she was crying, and she'd had rape counselors see her over the years, and psychiatrists, anger management. She'd seen the whole spectrum of therapists, but nothing had worked for her. I was delivering a content course, which is what I do. It's not a course where anybody actually describes what they've been through or going through. They just learn my techniques and then come back the next week. Anyway, she said that it was working. She said the two things which helped her was that she'd learn to forgive, and she could take charge of her own mind. That was the first thing. And the second thing was the power attitude of gratitude. She couldn't believe that was how much that was changing her. And she changed. She changed. She learned to appreciate men again. She retrained in different disciplines. She works as a magistrate in the courts now. She's doing really, really well. But before that, she was angry. She wasn't working, unable to work. But yeah, the transformation was incredible. So much so that she ended up being one of my assistants on courses in the future, But yeah, it was so powerful. I've seen some stuff. Those are two things. Both of them were hell bent on change. They wanted to change. So they just grabbed the tools and didn't even think about it, just did it. Because I think a big mistake a lot of people say to themselves, Sophia, is this going to work for me? No, it hasn't worked before. Other things haven't worked before, so this is not going to work for me. And once you start saying that, it won't work. But they transformed their lives. I didn't do anything. I just provided the tools, really.
That's amazing. I can't help but smile because it's crazy to hear those stories and how we really can retrain our brain and our mind and our thoughts to make changes and to have a different outcome on life, different situations, and just the power that comes from that. Can you share some of the techniques that you give people? And I know in your book, you talked about the FIT model.
My model.
Yeah, and then also, what was the other one?
The blueprint process.
Yes.
Yeah, because those are awareness tools. Because I think with a lot of most people, I think the first step in change is awareness, and most people have difficulty in accepting any tools or techniques because they're not aware of what they need to change, And so, a large portion of the book is bringing to the surface what you need to change, and the blueprint process does that. It shows you that you think and then feel and act in a certain way, and it happens all the time. So, what's causing you to think this way? You weren't born lacking confidence. You weren't born people pleasing or procrastinating. What happened? So in the book, I propose that there's a system called the blueprint, and that causes you to think, which then elicits feelings, and then you behave in a certain way. So if you think confident thoughts, you feel confident immediately. And then when you're out socializing, you're confident. Mm-hmm. But if you are thinking not confident thoughts, you're feeling not confident, you're looking down, you can't give eye contact. And when you're in a social situation, you might not do yourself a service because you're not confident on say that date, or you're going for a job interview and you're not confident, you're feeling not confident. And then at the interview, you come across as not confident and you don't give the best version of you, So what's causing us to think this way? And what I propose is the blueprint is like a software, a system. Imagine a chest of drawers, and we have T-shirts and socks and underwear and all different things. But our chest of drawers has our beliefs, our values, our fears, our toxic thinking file, our memories, and it has a system there. And all these combine to produce the way we think about ourselves, and for a large period of my life, I thought I was born lacking in confidence. I thought I was born this way, because a lot of people do. You think, well, we just say, it's just the way I am. Well, it's not. It's just the way you are right now because of what happened in the past. So the blueprint will show anybody, right, so I can change, yes. And that gives them immediate hope then, Sophia. Oh, I can change, yes. Just because you devalue your time right now, or you don't value yourself, it doesn't mean you were born that way, and it doesn't mean you're going to end up that way. It just means this is where you are right now. And when people see that, immediately they're like, wow, I want to change. I can change. So it's a graphical illustration of, yes, you can change. This is what's happening. You can change. But also, Sophia, the magical thing about it is people say to me, oh, now I know why my partner acts like he does. Or now I know why she says these things, Now I know why my friends always seeking attention. Because when you learn what's in the blueprint, which is in the book, described in the book, then you realize, okay, so everyone on this planet has their own blueprint. Yes, they do. They have their own blueprint. But can it be changed? Yes. Because in the book, in chapter 9 is called Can You Teach an Old Dog New Tricks? And that's all about the science of neuroplasticity. I explain it very easily on we can change, the power of we can change. That science has proven now that an 80-year-old can learn to play the violin if they want to. It's not over. You don't have to learn the violin when you're a child. It can be done at any age. So as long as your brain is functioning, you're okay to change.
Awesome. What about what is the FIT model?
Right. The Fit Mind model it shows you, I can show you the Fit Mind model so that if people want to see it. So the Fit Mind model, 109, if anybody's actually seen this on the video. So that's the Fit Mind model. Past, the now, and the future. So that what the Fit Mind model shows you is that, okay, here's the past, here's now, and here's the future. And people's mind is focused either on the past or the future or now or both. So people who are focused on the future are often working out things in their head, scenarios which are thinking are going to happen, worst case scenarios, catastrophe thinking. They're worried, will they pass their exams? Oh my God. Will I be losing the weight before we go on holiday and all that stuff? Whereas people always thinking about the past are saying, why didn't I go to college? If only I'd accepted this proposal. If only I worked harder when I was younger. So they're focused on the past. And therefore, they can get depressed or down, feeling down or depressed. Whereas people who are overly focused on the future can get anxious, because anxiety is always based in the future. So the Fit Mind model shows F actually stands for, in the past, stands for forgiveness. We can forgive ourselves and we can forgive the people. If we start doing that, we uncuff ourselves from the past. T, which is in the future, stands for trust. So if we just trust things are going to happen, because after all, how many things have we worried about in our life have actually come true? What percentage? Very small. I mean, science has found out it's under 10%. Between 5 and 10% of our worries actually come true. So that means 90 to 95% of our worries don't come true. So trust, T for trust. So that's the FIT model. And I stands for in the now. When we're living in the now, things seem to be magical. Things, time disappears.
It makes so much sense. Everything you just said, it all makes sense. And one of the things that you brought up so in the first exercise in, I think it was chapter 1, one of the first ones, you have us write out fears and beliefs and habits that just don't serve us. And so it's funny because actually one of the things that I do all the damn time, it seems like, and it's something that is kind of a focus point for 2021 for myself mentally, is the fact that like I keep thinking about something in the past that has recently happened, and I play in my mind different scenarios of like a couple different decisions that if I would have made, the outcome would have been different. And I go into this spiral of just like being more and more and more upset. And so like I find myself staying in that mindset, and it's been hard for me to like work through that and to let it go. And I guess it takes time for me to like work through that in my mind, but that's one of the main, I feel like, habits that I have for myself that I'm trying to work through in my mindset. So what would be, I guess, what would you say to, I don't know if you've worked with someone, I'm guessing you have, in that mindset, but what would be like a tip or one or two things that I can work on to help with this thing that
good question. The only thing I can say to that is that normally when I work with someone, they explain to me what the situation was, and then I can help them, I can actually help them reframe it and look at it. I mean, without knowing the situation of what happened, because obviously it's emotional because it's still playing in your head. You have to look at the situation and you have to look at what you can learn from it. And a powerful question you can ask yourself is, what's the gift in this? What's the gift in this? What can I learn from this? Because when we're looking behind us at the past and an event, which you might just say, I wish I hadn't started building the extension to the house. It's cost us so much money, but you've done it. It's already done, and it's costing money. But so we're still looking at regret. So what you got to think about is it is a mindset shift, which is it is what it is. It is what it is. What can I learn from it? What can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? How can I be better from it? How can I use it to be a better person? How can I use it to move forward? So it's all forward directing to acknowledge that, yes, it happened. And that, yes, obviously I don't know what happened. Yes, I can learn from it. Maybe I don't want to do it again. And I want to improve as a person. So it's more forward thinking, because every time you could do this one thing, have an elastic band. Okay, so a nice thick elastic band. Every time you float back to the past and then you find yourself in that state, flick it. It'll bring you back to the moment because that pain sends you a signal back to the brain. Think, oh, that'll jolt you back to the moment. And it's like, come on, Sophia. Right. Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, you're going to do that.
Yeah. And then you're back in the moment. That's in the book. That technique is in somewhere in the book. I can't remember which chapter it's in, but it's a powerful technique to snap you back into the moment.
Yeah. Yep. I'm 100% going to get myself a rubber band and do that.
Good.
The second thing that I wrote down that came to mind right away was that I tend to, and this is social media, the negative effect of social media probably, but I tend to look at other people and I compare my success to their success, especially when they're my age or younger, and when they are doing things that I have always wanted to accomplish or I'm wanting to accomplish, or it's like I've been working on that and I am not there.
Do you know what? This is one of the most common, most common issues today, especially with influencers like yourself, people on social media, people who want to grow, they have a vision, and I used to have that problem all the time, and it's there in the book. Let me just read, if I could.
Yes.
It's in the power statements. There's actually a chapter called power statements. As soon as you get the book, hopefully get one for your friend or someone you know that you can really be accountable to, because it's going to help you in terms of the power statements are actual statements you're going to be invited to put on post-it notes on the wall in your bedroom and around the house, and they're going to really help you transform your mindset. Because there's one for almost every different scenario. So there's about 14 in there, but 14 the most common scenarios. The one that helped me. So a lot of the tools in the book are ones I've learned, but ones I developed in practice. And the one that helped me is very simple, but it's a common statement. People don't use it to their advantage. Is everyone is on their own journey. Okay? Everyone is on their own journey. So what does that mean to you, Sophia? Everyone is on their own journey.
I think to me it means that everyone has their own path, and everyone has their own journey and their own set of challenges and failures and growth points, and kind of maybe like where they're meant to be heading and what they're meant to do. And everyone's journey is unique and separate, and has different lessons maybe that each person has throughout that journey.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, imagine your life as a car. You've got the steering wheel, you've got the accelerator, you're going as slow or fast as you want. Imagine that there are other people with other cars around you. Now, if you're going to be driving your car, but you're going to be looking at theirs continuously, what eventually is going to happen?
You're going to crash.
You're going to crash. Yeah? So that's exactly the analogy I love to use. Just imagine that you're going to crash. And that's what's going to happen. And the other analogy, which is in the book, which might be useful for you, is imagine you're leaving we call them car parks, you call them parking lots in the States, So imagine you're leaving the parking lot and you're looking in the rear view mirror. What's going to happen? If you're continuously... Sorry?
Going to crash.
Going to crash. So that you could apply that to that story you just mentioned earlier on about you always referring back to the past, playing that in your head. So imagine that Sophia is always looking at that incident which happened recently, and you're always looking at it. You're just going to crash all the time. So that's, if you can remember these analogies, it'll just like keep it in the moment,
That like gave me chills. Like that was like an aha moment for me just now, because I've never heard anyone say that. Not even people who like books I've read, things I've listened to. Like that is such a powerful analogy. Those two right there.
Thank you.
I'm definitely going to remember that. That's amazing.
They're in the book, but it's something that we as human beings we think in analogies, and it helps us snap out. So snap out of faulty thinking. So that's what mindset is. It's good thinking as opposed to not so good thinking.
Right.
And, there's ways around it,
Yeah. What about, have you ever worked with a perfectionist?
Oh, yeah.
I meet with people who they fear failure. And that's hard for me to, hear, because I see failure as such a positive impact that we can have in our life. But a lot of people, it's not, and it's scary for them to think about failing. They just don't want to fail. They can't fail.
Are you talking about perfectionist, or are you talking about fear of failure? Is it?
Well, I guess both, because I've had people say that they are a perfectionist in whatever they do. So like when it comes to fitness, like I guess how it relates back to their goals, because they don't want to fail in like their job or other things that they do. So like, I think it's kind of both. Like they feel like they fear failure in things, but they're a perfectionist within everything that they do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you can think about it, they're tying happiness to a lack of failure. So what they're looking at is, if I failed, I'm not going to be happy. Rather than it tying failure to growth, potential for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And it all depends on the person, really, because I remember somebody who had a fear of failure, and that was emotionally linked to the failure of his parents' marriage. Because they split up when he was about 11 or 12 years old, he looked at that as failure, and they talked about it. His mum or dad talked about it as their marriage failed. So he spent the next 20 years trying to avoid failure in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if he even experienced failure, he would start experiencing anxiety. He'd start to feel anxious. His heart would start racing. And that was all based on what he saw back in the past, But there are many reasons why. There's reasons for perfectionism or fear of failure because they tie it to fear of not being good enough, i.e., or if it's not perfect, I'm not good enough. You don't have to be perfect, but I have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So they've actually labeled themselves as not good enough unless it's perfect. It's like an internal labeling they do.
Yeah.
Believe. So, yeah, I mean, it's I have worked with people like that, and it's a mindset thing. It's 100% mindset thing, because once they manage to let go of the need to be perfect, they're so much happier.
Yeah,
so much happier.
totally. What is the relationship, or how does I know that in the book, in the first couple chapters, you talked about the 3 phases of kind of where beliefs stem from, or something like that, or the 3 levels. And one of those things is based on age, is what you did. So then also one of them was when you, like, the environment that you're growing up in, like with your friends and family. So how does that really impact our mindset, I guess, for the rest of our lives and the things that we do, and close friends and family?
Yeah, hugely. I mean, those 3 phases were based on developmental biology, which is 0 to 7. The most influential people in our life are our parents or whoever's bringing us up. So the arbitrary figure is 0 to 7. That whatever they say is gospel. The sky is blue, the grass is green. What's that? It's a car. What's this? This is a bottle. And whatever our parents feed us, we think is gospel. And then from 7 years old, we spend a lot more time in school. And then our teachers then start becoming very influential. And they contribute to our mental well-being in many ways, but also it can be detrimental. They might say a throwaway comment such as, you're not very good at maths, and then you believe that. It could be just you've just not grasped certain principles. So they might say, well, you're not as good as your sister was in biology, and immediately you feel sorry for yourself and you believe it. So whatever. It could be a teacher humiliates you in front of the class, and then you feel humiliated and you lose your confidence. So teachers have a lot to answer for, parents do. And then, so that's 7 to 14, and then 14 years old, just an arbitrary figure. We start then, we're getting into, boyfriends and girlfriends, and we're getting into social media. And all these things are then introducing new elements into our blueprint, that thinking and feeling mechanism I talked about in the book. So if you can imagine that, by the time you're 18 years old, you think in a certain way. You have an idea of who you are, or you think you have an idea of who you are, and that idea might be that you're not very smart. You might have this idea that you're not very lovable. You might have this idea you're not a practical guy. You might have this idea you're not very beautiful. These are ideas that you've got about yourself. Your mum, your dad, your best friends might all say you're just gorgeous, you're beautiful. But inside you think, no, I'm not, I'm ugly. So who was right? What I'm saying is, the person who's right is you, because that's your belief. You live according to your beliefs. So if you think you're not smart enough, you'll do all you can to avoid going to college. You think, well, I don't want to go to college. I don't want to be shown up. So we live according to our beliefs. So those are formed during our childhood. How good we think we are. Are we smart? Are we clever? Are we, as I said, are we worthy? And then by the time you're exiting your teenage years, you then have a system of beliefs and values. You think you're not valuable. You think your time is not worthy. Some people think they're very valuable. They're very worthy. They're very smart. So we all have different beliefs about ourselves. And that all started when we were growing up. But my argument is it can change. You can change it. So if you find yourself at 30 years old, single, all alone, and then you trace back, one of the exercises I've asked people in the past is trace back what you did the last 10 years. And then I remember one lady said, I self-sabotaged all my relationships. And then she hadn't really worked that one out. She knew she was doing something, but then she worked out that she self-sabotaged it, and she went deep and looked inside, and she discovered that she just didn't want to be hurt. She'd been hurt when she was a teenager, and she'd sworn, no man is ever going to hurt me again. I'm going to do the finishing. And she would, the minute that it got deep and meaningful, she would end it so that she didn't get hurt there. So, yeah, it can change. It starts in childhood, our belief system, our values, our fears.
Yes, even things I think that we don't even remember, right? Yeah. Like subconsciously too.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Your blueprint is in your subconscious. It's in your subconscious mind,
Yeah. What about if you had someone who, like, let's say she is in a job that she hates but has been in it for a long, long time, didn't go to college or school, but she feels stuck and she wants to make a change, but she doesn't really know exactly what to do, like what her purpose is. Maybe has a few ideas on kind of what she likes, but just like so much confusion and fear behind not knowing like what she is supposed to do or like her purpose.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people like that out there, Sophia, who are in careers. I think in 2020, people look back and a lot of people did, because they paused and they were at home, they got time to think. And it would have been, oh, maybe I don't like my job after all, and maybe I'm going to do something else. And yeah, it's that the number one thing is to just, even if you don't know what you're supposed to do, don't put pressure on yourself. The first thing is don't put pressure. Don't think there's a time limit.
Like that.
Because a lot of people start thinking, oh, I need to find out right now, this week. I need to, but to actually, it might take a couple of years. It might take a few years to find out, right, discover. Okay, and one of the things that I remember, I worked with a lot of unemployed people over the years. I did a lot of work for the UK government. Some of it was free, some of it was paid at the time. And I remember working with people because they too, they'd been out of work and they'd had mental health issues. So it was stopping them from getting back into work. I remember one guy, well, I was teaching them just what you were saying, asking me this question about purpose. And I was telling them, right, okay, what I wanted to find out now is just to write down what you love in life. What's your love list? And I call it the love list. Something I learned from John DiMartini. And the love list is something that just write down what you love in life. For me, I could write, I love coffee, chocolate, football, beaches. Just write down what you love, and write down what you've loved all your life. Okay, sports, people, meeting people, talking. Write it all down. Spend as long as you want writing it down. Weeks, months, just write down and ask people, what am I good at? Because you might not be aware what you're good at. Somebody might say, well, Sophia, you're really good at problem solving. Really? Yeah, whenever I've come to you for problems, you've solved the problems. You can see the big picture. Really? Yeah, you're more of a vision person. You can see it and you're thinking, I didn't know that. Okay, write it down, So if you can do that in there, in that mess of words jumbled up is what you are supposed to do. And it could be one of many things, It could be that you could be a writer. You could be a coach. You could be a doctor. It doesn't matter. I remember, doing this with these guys, this was an all guys group I did it with first. And they just discovered about themselves the things they'd never thought about. And one of these guys ended up working on a farm. He thought, because he'd said, right, I don't want to work with people. I like animals. And he ended up working on a farm. It was brilliant. Another person started their own company, mining sea salt. So it was just everyone's here for a purpose, but unfortunately not everyone ever finds out. That's just the way it is, When I was growing up, I always knew I was interested in the mind, philosophy, psychology. There was nothing to point to me in that direction. My parents were science and said, you will work with science. I thought, oh, really? And I always, I remember I always loved writing stories, writing. So I was okay as a writer in school. And it's nice to have written a book now, So it's sort of come full circle, and I'd like to write more. But I was just thinking that if I look at my life, for example, I travel normally, I teach, I write, I coach. It's all the things I love. And I wasn't always like this. I couldn't speak to people properly when I was younger. I was very shy, painfully shy. I couldn't make friends very easily. I was always worried about what they would think of me because I was totally inside, messed up inside. So I had to work on that, And so if anybody's out there looking to change and find the purpose, the first thing is there's no hurry. There's no emergency. And the second thing is start writing. Get it out of your head, because it's like juggling thoughts and ideas. Get it down, put it down on paper, spend some time, let it slowly digest, slowly. Yeah. Have conversations with people you trust. And then one day you might be in a magazine or in a movie. You might think, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. That's awesome. Do you believe there's, does each person have one purpose, or do you believe there's multiple purposes for people?
Yeah, I think people's purpose in life really is to be one of service, whatever it is.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be a plumber, you're in service. You want to be a doctor, you're in service. So that's the basis of who we are. Everything else is a bonus after that. So then, you could have different jobs. I mean, I've always been, I love adverts on TV. I love those adverts, especially the good adverts for different products, I've always appreciated adverts in magazines, on TV. And I think if I wasn't in my job, if I was in an alternate universe, I'd be in advertising, because I just love the way they advertise different products, the psychology behind it. I think it's really interesting. But it's not what I'm here for. Not now. Here, I love helping people by helping them deconstruct who they think they are and reconstruct who they actually are.
Yes, that's amazing. I think a lot of people, they try and find whatever their purpose is, but I always try and encourage them to see that whatever your purpose is, it's helping other people, because when we help other people, we can kind of feel a sense of fulfillment, and then it doesn't have to be just one thing, and it can change over time. It does not have to be, the same thing the rest of your life.
No, you can wear multiple hats.
Yeah, and always growing and learning that, having that growth. And have you ever worked with someone who is not in that growth mindset, very narrow-minded? And how have you come to get them from that mindset to a growth mindset?
One or two people over the years, they were so narrow-minded in terms of growth, it didn't get past the second session. Because I'm not for everyone. They're not for me. That's just the way it is. We're on journeys, different journeys. Anybody who has come to me and been like this, narrow-minded, but they've been eventually open to growth, and then they've usually moved forward and become happier as people, and then as a result, their family has been happier because they've become happier.
Yeah.
So I remember doing a workshop, and this guy turned up, and the workshop had 99% women, and he was the one guy there. And at the end of the first week, he came up to me and said, "Do you mind, David? Do you mind if my wife comes with me next week, just to support me?" I said, "Yeah, no problems, no problems." So the next week, he turns up with his wife and daughter. So they sit there in the audience, and he was taking notes. And at the end of that week too, he said, he came up to me and said, "Do you mind? We've really enjoyed it. My wife now wants to stay next week, come back next week, and my daughter." So he was initially definitely of a fixed mindset, definitely. And then he started to see possibilities. To this day, I don't know what his history was, what his problem was. I still don't know. But his wife came to me at the end of the course and said, "Wow, he's so nicer to us as a family. He's so more pleasant to be around and happier. Thank you." So that was nice. I still to this day do not know what was his problem, but his wife was there to see it through the entire course, But I think once a person is open to possibility, that's amazing. If they're not open to possibility, Sophia, then there's not much I can do, to be honest.
Right.
Not much I can do.
Yeah.
They may say, "I don't want to work with you, David." That's fine.
Yeah.
That's normal,
Yep. What's been your favorite part about what you do?
Seeing people transform. Seeing people, there's like an aha moment they have.
Yeah.
It's like week 3 or week 4, and they come in and their eyes are sparkling. Something's happened. I don't know what it is, and they have this aha moment, and then it grows and grows and grows. They see that their life changing. So yeah, it's because I've been there. I have been to where they are or have been,
Yeah.
And I can resonate with them. So it's amazing.
Yep. So you have a book, and then you also said you have courses. Is that like online courses that you have, or is it in person? I guess I don't know if you can do in person now, but
yeah, sure. I've got an online course, the Let It Go program. These days, I'm doing more public speaking. I was before the lockdown, but these days it's more online. So I tend to do less courses these days and more sort of speaking at events, or do my own workshops online. So I've got my own platform for people to join, a subscribers platform where I do workshops, live workshops, to help people. Yeah, but my goal was before the pandemic was to travel the world, teach, transform, speak, and then move on to go through different countries.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want you to come to the States and come to South Dakota.
Yeah, I'd love to. Honestly, I'd love to. I love the States, and I'd love to come and speak and talk. So I think if people are willing to learn, then let's do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. What so I didn't ask you this question, or I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this question, but I want to know so my podcast, it's Flow with the Grow. So what does it mean? Like when you hear that, what does that mean to you, to flow with the grow?
For me, it's the more you realize who you are in life and where you fit into life, and that you are good enough, The more you grow, the more you realize how special you are, how everyone is equal, but everyone is different. Everyone has a special meaning and purpose in this life. And the more you practice that daily, the more, for me, time seems to disappear. And the more I feel my life is in flow. That flow state when not every day is great, by the way. It's just a case of you feel good more days than you feel not so good.
Yes. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
There was, as I was going through the table of contents in the book, there's so many questions that came up, and I was going to ask you to go into this chapter and this. So I think chapter 8, what was that? Oh yeah, the toxic thinking trap and how to escape it. And I think 16, the 5 rules to live by. But I'm just going to get the book and I'm just going to have to read it for myself. But those were 2 that stuck out. And I was like, what are those?
Yeah. Toxic thinking trap.
More.
Yeah, the toxic thinking trap. Do you want me to read a little bit for you?
Go for it. I would love that.
Okay. The toxic thinking trap, how to escape it. Don't find fault, find a remedy. Henry Ford. We've talked a lot about the impact of introducing positive mental habits. In this chapter, I want to look at the impact of facing up to your negative default behaviors, which I like to bundle together and call your toxic thinking. Scenario. You spend 30 minutes with a friend over a cup of coffee, and for the entire time they blame, complain, judge, and criticize the world. They blame the weather, complain about their wife, and even criticize their colleagues. How do you feel? Drained and fairly exhausted, I'm sure. 2 weeks later, you see this person in the supermarket and decide to jump into the next aisle. Why is that? You don't dislike them. However, you dislike how they made you feel. You have no intention of allowing them to drain your energy again on this particular day. And the chapter goes on from there. So it goes on to talk about the blame, complain, judge, how to spot it in yourself, others, and what to do about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that because I think you use the word default, but it's kind of, we are wired, I think, to grasp onto that negative thinking and feeling, I feel like. So we have to kind of put things into practice, have awareness with it, and then put things into practice and consciously work on those things so that we don't just automatically default, or if we do default to that way of thinking, we can work ourselves into more of that positive thinking too.
Yeah, 100%. You're gonna have plenty of days when you wake up and it's rain. Well, here it's raining outside. You don't feel good, but it's how you respond. Mm-hmm. Rather than react, you can consciously respond to any situation. If you feel like somebody's let you down, are you going to react angrily, or are you going to respond and say, okay, this is not going to happen again? Or are you just assuming they've let you down because you've read this text and and immediately we try and mind read other people's text, even though it could be one word that's incorrect or an email. So we are forever trying to assume, presume what other people are thinking, mind reading, and it gets us into trouble.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then one last thing too that came to mind was I think a lot of people, they have this fear of judgment specifically going to the gym, but that can be with anything in life, having a fear of other people thinking, negative thoughts about you or judging you. And I know in the book you had talked about, and this is something that I tell my clients all the time, the only way to get past that is to do that thing over and over again, even with that fear being present. So is there anything else, I guess, that people can think about when those times come up for them?
Yeah, there's a little analogy I like to use is, imagine that you're in a cafe, maybe like a Starbucks, and you're sitting there having coffee with your best friend, your best mate. And if I were to say to you as you sit there, what color was the jacket of that person who just walked into the cafe? You're going to say, what person? What jacket? People are actually not even bothered. They're too consumed with their own shit to worry about what you're doing. Yet we think, or we assume the world is looking at us when they're not, because they're too busy doing their own stuff. So we have this conversation going on in our head all the time. Oh, what are they thinking? Oh, I don't like that selfie. Oh, I've got to do that perfectly. Nobody really cares. And what's more, nobody will even remember.
Right.
They won't remember what you posted last week. They remember what you posted in, and it's gone then, you know? One of my likes is gone. So they remember what you are saying right now. And yes, we are creatures where we judge each other. We do. That's normal. However, move on, because life is in flow state. We're moving on. There, in the book, there's one of the power statements you put on the post-it note, and that's called the only variable I can control is myself, which
Love
means
that.
you're not in control of anything else, not the weather, not your friends, not social media. And when we learn about that, a person who is really confident and comfortable in their own skin realizes, well, it doesn't matter what people think, it's what I think that matters most.
Yep. I love that. So tell us more about where we can find your book, like if they want to pre-order or order it, and where anyone can learn more about you or connect with you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the book is available to pre-order on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and bookshop.org. Those are the three I usually mention. My website is david-rahman.com. And then I'm on Instagram, which is David Rahman, LinkedIn, David Rahman, Facebook, Mind Coach. But yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
And when is the book being released again? February
the 23rd in the US. But people can pre-order it now.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I know I'm excited. I'm definitely, is it going to be on audio, like Audible at all right away?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Hopefully before the States. I'll have recorded it before it comes out in the States in the paperback. I want to record it myself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll probably get it myself, the physical copy, because especially with exercises, I find for myself, if it's on audio and there's exercises, I'm more likely to not do it. But if it's a physical copy and I see that in exercise, I'm more likely to do it. So I can easily listen to audio, throughout my day. So, well, this was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing all of this.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say or end with or ask?
No, I mean, you've asked some great questions and really tested me. I like that. I'm really, really glad because I love those scenarios you put forward and those problems, issues. Yeah, I mean, if people out there looking for help, just go on Instagram. I'm there. Please have a look at the book. And as I said at the outset, one tip is to, if you're going to get the book, try and get your friend to read it as well, so that you can go through all the exercises, because accountability partners are so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. More accountable, and tell me all the time, you're more likely to give up on yourself versus if you have someone, who knows what you're doing or they're doing it with you. So awesome. Well, I'm excited. And again, thank you so much for coming on. And I'll link in the show notes all of your websites and where they can get the book and all of that. So thank you again. And we'll have to I'm excited to see where you go. Like, I'm always excited to see where someone goes years, down the road, months, and kind of where this takes you.
I'm definitely going to come to the States. Definitely. I've already worked in California and New York previously. But I definitely would love to come to where you are. South Dakota, isn't it South Dakota?
Yep.
Yes, definitely. Let's do it. Let's arrange an event, shall we?
Oh my gosh, yes. I would love that. Let me know.
Oh, brilliant.
Awesome.
Well, how eye-opening was that? I really do hope you took away a few nuggets with things that you can implement in your day-to-day life to help you in your mindset. I know one quote that he said that really stood out to me of basically what he does as a mindset coach. And that is helping people to deconstruct who they think they are and reconstruct who they actually are. Just wow. And the other thing I've been doing, and actually right away after we had our conversation, after we recorded, I got a rubber band. And I've been using it, and actually it does help. Kind of brings me back to the present. And when he talked about whenever we're thinking about the future or the past, more specifically the past, he related that to the analogy of looking in our rearview mirror of a car as we're driving, or when we're kind of just not paying attention. What's going to happen? Well, we crash. So that really resonated with me. And even after listening to it a second time, I picked up on a few things that I really didn't hear or understand maybe as clearly when we were speaking. And now that I went back and listened to it, I just picked up a few more things. So I definitely recommend and encourage you to go back and listen to this one again. And again, if you resonated with this, if you found value in this, take a screenshot of this episode, share it with a friend, put it up on your stories, and tag me and David so we can thank you and have maybe more of a conversation around this, and let him know how much you enjoyed it, what you learned. And be sure to pick up, or I guess pre-order, his book, Let It Go. And if you feel open to it and you have not done so yet, please rate and review the show. It really does help, and it means a lot to me. I love going back and reading those. Thank you for listening. And with that, have a great rest of your day, night, week, weekend. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Flow with the Grow. I'll see you next week for your daily dose of positivity and growth.